In the last few days, my life has been turned upside down and my emotions are boiling over. I am just not sure what to do next. I am Jeff Holder, and I'm a confused young man at just 22 years old. I come from a very good and happy family. I have one sister, Susan, who is 3 years older than me and happily married with a son of her own. I need to go back a little and tell you about my upbringing. I have always lived in the same house since I was born. I remember my sister would tease me, but that was just sibling rivalry. We now get along great. Next door live the Cooks, Mr. and Mrs. Cook, and their daughter. My best friend ever, Charlie. Her full name was Charlene, but she preferred to be called Charlie. She was what my parents would have called a tomboy. We went to the same school, but she was a year behind me. Ever since the first grade, we walked to school together. We were pals and shared everything. I used to get annoyed when people called her my girlfriend because she wasn't. She was my best friend. We talked about all kinds of things, and one day the topic turned to kissing. I remember I was 11 at the time and not really interested in girls yet. We decided to try kissing, and we kept our eyes open and barely touched lips. I asked her what she thought, and I didn't really feel anything. "I don't get why people think it's so great," replied Charlie. "It was like kissing my sister. It was funny because we swam together, played ball, and even wrestled when we were young. As teenagers, we still walked to and from school together like siblings. We studied together most evenings, and at other times we rode our bikes or camped out in the backyard. The only thing we didn't do when we got older was have sleepovers. We did that when we were younger, but we made tents on the floor, and our parents thought we were too old for that now. I belonged to a few organizations at school and even played baseball and soccer. I was just a regular kid and knew I didn't have a future in sports." Charlie joined the band and played the saxophone. She could also play a few other wind instruments. She was great at girls' softball and could really hold her own. So we didn't see each other as much during high school. One of us always had a game or a practice. I asked her if she wanted to go to the junior prom, but her mother said she was too young. So I took another girl. My senior year, I didn't go when Charlie told me that Mike Hagan asked her, and she said yes. I had planned to ask her but never got around to it. She did tell me she had a nice time until Mike tried to kiss her, and she had to set him straight. She didn't tell me what she did, but it made me smile. I graduated and started working at a parts manufacturing plant. One day when I came home, I saw Charlie sitting on her porch with a good-looking girl. I walked over and she introduced me. "Jeff, this is Candy, my cousin." Before you ask, yes, it's her real name. She recently moved here from Arizona. Her dad, my uncle, is in the military. "Candy, this is my pal or best bud, Jeff." I told her I was pleased to meet her and asked what she did for a living. I found out she was 21 at the time. While I was 19, she told me she worked in an insurance office as a secretary. I have to say she was attractive and I couldn't help but notice. I don't think Charlie liked the way I was looking at her. Surely she wasn't jealous. The three of us talked for a while on the porch, and I decided to ask Candy out Saturday night to a movie. I was surprised when she agreed to go as long as Charlie didn't mind. "I don't want to take away her boyfriend," replied Candy. "Why would I mind?" said Charlie. "Jeff and I are just good friends, isn't that right, Jeff?" she said, staring at me. I could tell by her tone that she was a bit upset, but tried to hide it. "Yeah, we're just good friends. Besides, there is a football game Saturday and Charlie is in the band." I got Candace's address and phone number and told her I'd see her Saturday. I went home and had dinner with Mom and Dad. I mentioned Candy and they asked me what Charlie thought. She didn't say much other than that she had to play at the game Saturday. On Saturday I went and picked up Candy and met her parents. They seemed nice enough but didn't say much. Candy and I headed to the movies. I was surprised she wore a skirt and blouse. Charlie always wore jeans when we went to the movies. We talked a little about our jobs on the way to the theater. We got some popcorn, and Candy wanted to sit way off to the side, so I just followed her. During the movie, she put her hand on mine and moved it over to her leg. Up until then I had only kissed a couple of girls and I never mentioned that to Charlie. It just didn't feel right. I knew that if she let a guy get close to her I wouldn't want to know. Candy was different. She was 21, had dated before, and mentioned she went to college for 2 years and got her degree in secretarial science. During the movie, I moved my hand a bit, and she seemed to be focused on the film, not reacting much. Thankfully, no one was around us. Eventually, she looked at me and smiled. We enjoyed the rest of the movie, and afterward we parked and shared some affectionate moments. "Do you have any protection?" she asked. I had never carried anything like that, and I told her I didn't. She said she wouldn't feel comfortable without it, but let me touch her some more, suggesting maybe next time. I knew I wanted to start dating her, so I asked her out again for the following weekend, promising myself to keep some protection in my car. I couldn't stop thinking about her. I can't say I loved her, but I knew I felt different. A couple of days later I saw Charlie. "Jeff, we need to talk." "What is it?" I asked. "You have to watch out for Candy. She's pretty wild and I don't want to see you get hurt," she told me. Charlie mentioned what I had done at the movies and asked if I had ever been with anyone. I told her no, that we were just good friends and not to worry. I also mentioned that I didn't think Charlie had had any relationships yet. "What? You talked about what we did? How could you?" she exclaimed. Now I look like an idiot. "Thanks a lot, Jeff. I care for you. You're my best friend and I don't want to see you get hurt. I wish I never introduced you to Candy." She then turned around and went home. I thought, women. I just don't get them. My best friend is upset with me, and her cousin probably knows I've never been with anyone before. Great. I guess I'll have to see how it goes. On Saturday I picked up Candy and she wore slacks and a blouse. I had to admit she looked nice, but I hoped to hold her hand again. We went out for dinner and talked. I asked her, "How come I've never met you before?" "I've lived my whole life next door to Charlie. My dad is in the service and was stationed all over the place. Charlie and her parents visited us a few times throughout the years, and we visited them twice, but I don't know why I never met you. Charlie probably wanted to keep you to herself. It's not like that between me and Charlie, really. Charlie and I are just good friends." "Why did you tell her about what happened at the movies?" she asked. I explained that Charlie had asked me what we did, and I thought she got upset. "I'm going to make her even madder tonight," she said. "Why would you do that? What are you planning?" "I have the key to my girlfriend's apartment at work. She said we could use her place for a few hours. Do you want to hang out there or go to a movie?" She was laughing now. We headed to the apartment. It wasn't the nicest place, but all I knew was that I was excited. We started out by kissing. She was a good kisser. We lay there for a while enjoying each other's company. When we paused, I noticed the protection had come off. "What's the matter, Jeff?" she asked. "The protection came off," I replied. "Oh, I can't get pregnant," said Candy. "Candy, is there any chance you could take birth control pills? I'll use protection for a while, but the pills might be safer. I'll even pay for them." "Okay, I guess I'll make a doctor's appointment and see what she says. Until then, you have to use protection." We dated regularly and everything felt good. But I didn't feel as compatible with her as I was with Charlie. Don't get me wrong. I liked Candy, but she was just different from Charlie. I still talked to Charlie, but she was really upset when she found out Candy and I were spending time together. "How could you do that to me? Go and hang out with my cousin? I told you she's trouble, but no, you wouldn't listen. I thought we were best friends." "You still are my best friend. It's just that I'm a guy and wanted to explore things. Candy seems nice and I thought you'd be happy for me. Men are so clueless." "No, I'm not happy for you. In fact, I'm on the verge of hating you for what you did to our friendship. I don't know if I ever want to talk to you again." She got up and stormed home. What the heck did I do wrong? I thought. I just don't understand women. I kept dating Candy and she kept putting off getting the birth control pills. I was still using protection but hadn't had any incidents lately. Charlie would say hi to me but not much else. I found out she was going to her prom and didn't ask me. I went over and knocked on her door. "Charlie, I thought you wanted me to take you to your senior prom." "What happened?" "You and my cousin are what happened. Do you really think I'd go to my prom with you while you're dating my cousin? How clueless can you be?" She shut the door on me. I liked Candy and everything was fine, but I missed seeing Charlie. My life felt all mixed up, and then it got worse. I got a call from Candy. She said she needed to see me, so I went over to her house that evening. "What's the problem that couldn't wait until Saturday?" I asked. "I went to the doctor to see if I could get birth control pills, and the doctor told me I'm already pregnant, just under 3 months. My periods are always mixed up, so I didn't think much about it. What are we going to do?" I was in shock. I had used protection, but it did fall off that one time. What was I supposed to do now? I liked Candy, but I wasn't in love. We were just partners. We sat and talked about our options. Abortion was one, but I didn't like the idea. It would be hard to cover up and also expensive. Candy was worried about her reputation and her job. We came to the conclusion that we would get married. I knew it was the right thing to do. I remembered reading in a story that said if you want to play, you've got to pay. I cared enough for Candy and believed I could love her. We told her parents that we were getting married. They tried to talk us out of it until they found out she was pregnant. They were really upset, but also relieved that I was doing the right thing by marrying their daughter. I told Mom and Dad that night and they were really upset with me. I know I let them down, but it was too late now. The hardest person to tell was Charlie. She already knew when I went to talk to her. "You're making a huge mistake marrying Candy. You'd be better off just supporting the baby, Jeff. I know it's too late now, but I want you to know I've always cared for you. When the time comes, and it will come, I'll be there for you." I wasn't sure what she was talking about, but she started crying, gave me a hug and closed the door. Candy wanted to get married right away before she began to show. So we had a small private wedding the following weekend, with just our parents and my sister in attendance. Charlie didn't even show up, which made me feel bad. We found a small apartment that we could afford. It wasn't much, but at least we had a place to live. Our parents and other relatives gave us enough household items to begin our new life together. Life was so different. I would come home at night and wait for Candy. She always got off work later than I did. I would usually start preparing a simple meal for us for dinner, and after that we would watch TV or visit one of our parents. As Candy got bigger, she became more irritable, but I tried to take it all in stride. I did attend Charlie's graduation and I was proud of her. Candy got mad at me for going. I had asked her if she wanted to join me, but she said she didn't, so I went myself. I just didn't understand women. I hugged Charlie and told her I was sorry for whatever I did to hurt her, then gave her another hug. She asked me about Candy and that was about it. I felt like I had lost my best friend when she walked away. I was busy working and putting in all the overtime I could to help pay our expenses. Thank goodness Candy had insurance to cover the delivery of the baby. Or should I say babies? Yes, we were having twins. I couldn't believe it, 2 kids, and I had just turned 20. I was lucky to have a good-paying job which would put the kids on my insurance at birth. Life was moving quickly now. I spent almost all my time working and saving money. In our apartment we had 2 bedrooms and we set one up for the babies. People at work gave us all kinds of things we could use and Mom threw a baby shower. Everyone was excited about the twins. During the final couple of months, intimacy became nearly non-existent. I was both nervous and tired. This was all too new to me, being a husband and soon-to-be father of twins. One day Candy went to her parents and I chose to stay home. I was never the most welcome person at their house. I guess they felt Candy could have done a lot better than me, but I was trying. I was sitting there assembling some baby furniture when there was a knock at the door. I got up and opened it to find Charlie standing there, holding a baby gift. I was so glad to see her. I gave her a warm hug and it felt so nice. She apologized for missing the baby shower and said she thought she would bring over the gift. I invited her in and she asked me where Candy was. I told her that Candy went to see her parents and that I was putting together furniture. Charlie smiled at me, and we started assembling the furniture together. I missed our friendship. She mentioned that she was going to college for 2 years for nursing and had already started. I told her she would make a good nurse and that she could take care of me anytime. It almost felt like old times until Candy arrived. "What the hell are you doing here?" Candy exclaimed. "I told you to stay away from my husband. You had your chance and blew it." Now get out of my house and stay away from my husband." I was taken aback. The two of them began arguing and I tried to intervene. But Candy told me to stay out of it. What did she mean that Charlie had her chance? What was going on? It was a good thing Candy was pregnant because I knew Charlie was capable of standing her ground. I finally told them both to calm down. "Candy, I don't know what the hell is going on, but Charlie is and always will be my friend. She stopped by to drop off a gift for our future kids. There isn't anything going on between me and Charlie. There never has been." "Look," Charlie said. "I'm sorry for all the misunderstandings. I wish you two the best. I'd better go now." She had tears in her eyes as she walked out the door. "Candy, what was that all about? Charlie's your cousin and we've always been best friends. You had no right to treat her that way. I know you're pregnant and your hormones are all mixed up, but Charlie didn't deserve that. You don't get it, do you? She loves you and always has. You were just too blind to see it. You're my husband now, and I don't want you being alone with her ever." I was lost for words and didn't want to start another argument with Candy, so I let it go for now. I had to wonder if she knew something I didn't. Did Charlie really like me that much? As time went on, we did our best to communicate. Candy had a few good days, but most were filled with her blaming me for her being pregnant. She was scared and so was I. We weren't ready for parenthood, but here we were. I received a call at work from Candy. She had to go to the hospital because the babies were coming. I left as soon as I could and met her there, calling both her parents and mine. They arrived shortly after I got there. Candy was in a lot of pain and expressed her frustration. "You better never touch me again. God, it hurts. I wish it was you going through this so you'd know what it feels like." I understood she was in distress, but it was difficult to hear. I offered to hold her hand, but she wanted no part of it. Finally she screamed out and I saw the head of one of the babies. It was a boy. My stomach began to feel queasy. The nurse looked at me and saw the concern on my face. "Don't worry. They all look that way until we clean them up," she said, offering me a reassuring smile. A few minutes later the second baby arrived, looking much like the first, except she was a girl. Candy lay there looking exhausted. Two nurses cleaned up the babies while another helped Candy. I stepped out to tell our parents that they were now grandparents. "You have a grandson and a granddaughter." The doctor confirmed they seemed to be in perfect health. I was relieved that the ordeal was over. We all waited in the waiting room until we got the okay to see Candy and the babies. She still wasn't talking to me, barely saying anything to anyone. When they brought the babies in, everyone seemed happy except for Candy. I knew she had gone through a lot, but I thought she would be more excited. The grandparents were overjoyed, and we named them Larry and Sherry. They were adorable, and even though they were mine, I felt incredibly proud to be a dad. In the days that followed, we brought the babies home, and their room was all ready for them. Candy seemed to be adjusting a bit better toward them now. I tried to help as much as I could. Candy chose not to breastfeed, so the babies were on formula. I promised to assist as much as I could. She had taken a 2-month maternity leave, and when I got home from work, she would remind me that it was my turn to watch the babies since she had cared for them all day. I didn't mind though. I loved being a dad. I quickly learned how to change diapers and enjoyed every moment I had with my twins. Candy took on the typical duties of a mother, but it seemed like she didn't have the same enthusiasm for the kids as I did. I figured it was just her emotions being overwhelmed. To cope, she joined an exercise club to help regain her strength and confidence. I realized she was worried about her body and how she looked. She went to her exercise class for an hour each evening after I got home from work, and in no time she looked great. It took about 2 months before we resumed our intimacy, but she did start taking birth control, not wanting any more kids. We needed a plan for when she went back to work. My mom suggested that she could watch the kids while I worked since she adored the twins. Candy would drop them off in the morning before leaving for work, and I would pick them up unless I had to work overtime. It worked out well. Sometimes my mom would even have dinner ready when I arrived, which was nice since Candy hardly ever cooked. I would take a plate of food home for her. One day while I was at my mom's, Charlie stopped by. It was great to see her and I gave her a hug. I asked if she wanted to see the twins. Jeff, I see the twins most every day. I stop in after school and sometimes help your mom feed them. They're absolutely adorable. After my mom left the room, Charlie said, "Too bad their mother is well, you know?" Charlie, that's my wife you're talking about. I know, but thank goodness they have a father as nice as you. She gave me a quick hug before heading home. Mom came back into the room but kept quiet about Charlie. We talked about the kids before I took them home. It had been about 9 months since the twins were born, and they were more fun than ever. I would lie on the floor and let them crawl all over me. Candy seemed much better now. As I watched her with the kids, I could see she was juggling her busy schedule of work, exercise, and being a mother. When she was home, mine wasn't any easier. I would pick them up at my mom's, make sure they were fed, and play with them until their mom showed up. It was what being a parent was all about. At least twice a week, we took the twins to see Candace's parents, who loved the kids just as much as we did. A couple of times, Charlie's parents visited Candace's parents, since the two men are brothers. Charlie's dad Ben, his Candace uncle, and his wife Betty, has been like a second mom to me. CS's parents are Bob and Alice Cook. They didn't seem to like me as much as Ben and Betty did, but I had gotten their daughter pregnant. Our relationship was okay, but it wasn't what I had imagined it would be. I expected we would be more intimate on a regular basis, but I was lucky if we managed it twice a week. It was good when we did, but I often had to initiate it. We didn't go out very often. Maybe once every couple of weeks, and on those occasions we usually ended up being close. Candy liked to drink, but since I was usually the one driving, I would stick to soda. I was just trying to be a responsible driver and dad. We went out dancing with a couple of her friends from work, but I didn't like the way she interacted with others. I wasn't quite sure how to address it, but I had mentioned to her that she might be flirting a bit too much, and she had toned it down somewhat. Recently, I had started receiving calls from her saying she had to work late, about an hour or so after her shift. After the third time this happened, I began to wonder about it. So, on my way home one day, I drove by her office and noticed the lights were still on inside with her car parked outside. I decided to go home instead of confronting her. When I asked Candy about the sudden overtime, she explained that they were revamping the computer system, and that things were too busy during regular hours. I honestly didn't buy it. Why was it always her working late? I had driven by 3 different times and it was only her car along with one other, the same one every time. I had to wonder if she was seeing someone else. After all, she was a good-looking woman and likely alone with another man. Candy had always shown a jealous streak toward me, which made me wonder if she might have taken on a relationship with someone else. One day, while I was at my mom's to pick up the kids, Candy told me she had to run to the store. While she was gone, Charlie happened to come over. I had never mentioned it to Candy, but Charlie often came over when I was there. We would just talk about old times and the kids. She was getting ready to start her second year of college for her nursing degree, mentioning that she was studying DNA, and jokingly asked if she could take mine for a project. "Charlie, I know what you're doing. The kids are mine. You can take all the DNA samples you want, but I trust you with them," I said. "Jeff, I love Larry and Sherry. It's their mother I don't trust, and you shouldn't either. For the record, I do hope they're your kids. I spend more time with them than their mother does." "Charlie, why do you have such a distrust of Candy? She's your cousin. Look, she was a wild child when she was younger. I remember how she was when we visited them. I don't think she's changed that much. The reason she went out with you was because she knew I loved you and planned on taking you from me. She succeeded. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "When? Right after you started dating her?" "No, thank you. You made your bed and now you have to sleep in it. But it doesn't mean I have to stop caring for you. I have to go home now." I was shocked to hear that, but later when my mom came home, she told me that Charlie always came over after school to visit. She would take breaks from her homework to help my mom with the kids. They were quite a handful. My emotions were all mixed up. I was married now and had a family, and I had to do whatever it took to make it work. I tried to help Candy more, but things didn't seem to improve much. We still had close moments once or twice a week, usually after we went out. I was somewhat at a loss until I heard a knock at the door. I answered it and it was Charlie. What are you doing here? I asked. If Candy catches you here, she'll go berserk. As much as I hate to say this, I have to ask you to leave. She won't be home for a while. She's working late, right? How do you know that? I asked. I know I shouldn't get involved, but I'm worried about you and the kids. I heard at college on Tuesday that a married woman where Candy works is having an affair with a married man. One of the girls at college is a real gossip. She told me that the woman, who she wouldn't name, stays late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I drove by on Tuesday, and there was Candy's car in the parking lot next to another car. Today is Thursday and I drove by and there it was again. Charlie, Candy has always called me when she works late. She's never more than an hour late. That doesn't mean she's having an affair. Do you have any proof, like pictures, that she's being unfaithful? No, I don't. I just thought I would tell you what I heard and saw. I'm not trying to be mean or break up your marriage. I'm sorry. It was stupid for me to even come here. I feel so foolish. It's just that we always looked out for each other, and I hate seeing you get hurt. Please just forget I was here. I was wrong to come. She left me standing there, wondering what was going on. Candy came home and said she needed a shower. She didn't even take the time to kiss me or say hi to the kids. I didn't tell her that Charlie stopped by. It would have just led to an argument. Candy did mention that she had something important to discuss with me. We planned to talk the next evening. In the third week of August, several people in her office would be taking vacations and going to Atlantic City for 4 days. The company was holding a conference there and would be covering the cost of the rooms for the employees. Plus, most meals would be provided. She said she was planning on going. What about our family? We can't take 2 little kids to Atlantic City. Besides, I can't get time off work. I took my vacation when the kids were born. You don't have to go, she said. Julie, one of the girls at the office, said she would share a room with me. We're going to drive there to save money. My boss is expecting me to go. He said it would help my future. What if I say no? I want you to stay here with me and the kids. They don't get to see you that much. They've been calling my mother Mommy. No matter what I want, you're always against it. This is my job and I am going. If you can't give me a little space, then fine. This is my future I'm talking about. You can have your precious Charlie watch your kids. What does Charlie have to do with this? I hardly ever see her. I know she visits your mom all the time. Do I look like I have stupid written on my forehead? I know you still care for her. I bet you've been hanging out with her too. I have never done anything wrong with Charlie. You're just using her as an excuse to go to Atlantic City. I heard a rumor that someone in your office is having an affair. That wouldn't be you, would it? If you choose to go to Atlantic City, we may not stay married when you get back. You're not going anywhere. I'll get your precious kids and you will have a hard time seeing them when I tell the courts about Charlie. As far as me having an affair, I wish I were. We argued about it every day until she had her bags packed and was ready to go. She didn't work any overtime for the following 2 weeks, and I had a feeling she was a bit hesitant about me finding out something. I was lost on what to do. I threatened divorce and she didn't bat an eye. I talked to an old friend at work, and he suggested I hire a private investigator. He mentioned a good friend of his who handled his divorce and even accepted credit cards. I spoke with Joe Miller, who listened to my story. I told him I didn't have any proof, but had suspicions that my wife was being unfaithful. I told him about Atlantic City, and gave him a list of the employees that I knew were going. Charlie found out who was going from her gossip friend at the agency. I gave Joe a credit card and he charged me $500 to look into my situation. A couple of days later he called me and said the manager of the agency was taking his wife. 2 other agents were also bringing their wives. He mentioned that Bill Akers, one of the agents, was going solo, even though he was married. The only other 2 people going solo were my wife and her divorced friend Julie. Joe laughed when he saw Julie's name. He told me he followed her husband and found him cheating on her, which led to their divorce a couple of years back. He mentioned he had dated her a few times after that. He told me he would accept my case, but it would cost me $1,000 a day plus some expenses, totaling around $5,000. I explained to him that I needed proof if she was cheating on me. I didn't have that kind of money. Joe said if I wanted to put $2,500 down on a credit card, he would charge the balance later. He promised me that if Candy cheated on me, he would get me the proof I needed and would keep me updated daily by email. I went home, wondering if I was doing the right thing. I knew I had to get past these suspicions. If she wasn't having an affair, I would do my best to make this marriage work. On the other hand, if she was cheating on me, I would start divorce proceedings. I picked up my kids at Mom's and went home. Candy had left work early and came home to pack her bags for her trip. She kissed the kids and told me I'll see you in 4 days as she laughed at me. I really didn't want to be home alone. I took the kids and visited some friends who had kids and we enjoyed the evening together. I told them Candy had a mandatory convention to attend and would be gone for 4 days. I mentioned that I couldn't get time off work since I had used up my vacation. The next day I stayed at Mom's for dinner. Charlie showed up and at first I felt a bit awkward. She knew Candy had gone to Atlantic City. After dinner we all sat around.